Hey guys, Rich here at rcinformer.com. Thanks for checking out this build guide of the Unique Models Boeing PT-17 Stearman. This is the newest model that Unique Models has put out. It's the first biplane they have, and it's the third Unique Models airplane that I have built and flown. And I got to tell you, I'm real happy with their stuff, guys. You get a nice detailed model that builds well, it flies great, and it's at a very, very affordable price. This airplane goes for under $200 receiver ready. It's about $160 really to $180. So you get a lot for the money. It is receiver ready. You just add your receiver and battery and go. It has a lot of nice scale details to it. It has a very detailed radial engine. It has very scale landing gear struts, wheels, and hubcaps. Wing struts are very scale. All the decals are applied. And the airplane comes with two pilots. Real nice windscreens and instrument panels. So a lot of detail, a lot of value for the money. It builds very, very nicely. It goes together well, and it's a very forgiving flyer. And it's quite aerobatic, and it's just a fun airplane to fly. No retractable landing gear, no opening canopy, just a simple airplane that you can go out there and fly and have a lot of fun with. I put this video together so I could show you guys some of the things I did to this plane as I built it. I'm going to show you all the parts that are in the box. I'm going to show you some of the features the airplane has, and I'm going to give you some of the build tips, some of the things I used when I put this thing together. As usual, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that when I glue my wings, tail surfaces, I use 30-minute epoxy. I scuff the surface with sandpaper, and I think that's the best way to go. One thing I noticed with this plane is as I did with the T6 Texan, is Unique Models has gone to all foam, pretty much all foam hinges for everything, and everything held up really nicely, guys. It handled all the maneuvers and everything that I did. I did notice coming out of the box that the rudder hinge itself, the foam hinge back there, was a little thin. It may have just been mine with a bad molding. But what they do is they give you some bullet type hinges actually to go ahead and put that on with. So rather than fool with it, and you'll see in the video, I just went ahead and cut the foam hinge off, and I just traditionally hinged it, and I'll show you that in the video. In addition, one of the biggest things I want to kind of comment on this is as you put it together, you can get it together in about an hour or two. It's pretty easy, but I took my time with it, and because it has two wings, it's probably a good idea to take your time putting it together and making sure you have both wings fitting correctly. This thing went together like a glove. And really, once you bolt the bottom wing on, you go ahead and you glue all your wing struts in to the lower surface, and then once that's all glued in, you go ahead and you put your top wing right on top, and you glue the top wing all together in one piece with 30-minute epoxy. It's important to note that before you do any of that stuff, it's a good idea to just test fit the whole thing together, and it does fit like a glove. I noticed in mine, as you'll see in the video, that at the factory, I think they just put the stickers on wrong. So the A sticker was on here when it was supposed to be over here. The B was over here when it's supposed to be over there. So they just labeled them wrong. But you can't really get this thing wrong. It's a little bit idiot-proof because everything fits together. Each of the struts that fits in to the wing only goes in one place. So if something goes together and it doesn't look right, it's not right. You just have to swap struts around. So get a good test fitting of this thing before you glue any of the wings together, and just make sure all of the little brackets that plug into the fuselage and the wings all fit in correctly. With that, guys, without further delay, let's get on with the video. I hope you enjoy it. To start off the review of the Unique Models PT-17, I thought I'd just show you the box and how it arrived to me via the U.S. mail. Looking inside the box, I can notice right away that this plane is packaged a little bit differently than the other Unique Models airplanes. This is my third Unique Models plane, and they're usually packed in a big foam crate. But because this is a biplane and the wings are each wing is in one piece, they package it a little differently just to keep everything in order. The nice thing is it does look like the wings, each of them, they are in one piece, so you don't have to glue those together. This does look like it's going to be a really easy build, guys. Here's one more shot of the internal packaging, which I'm pretty impressed with. I thought it was worth showing you, worth mentioning. But it's nice because they have these foam bulkheads that kind of keeps everything suspended in the middle and kind of protects everything really nicely. And I've kind of not seen a package kind of like this. There's also instructions and, as you can see, a separate box with some of the more delicate parts like the canopy pieces and so forth. Here's all the parts laid out as they came out of the box. Everything was individually wrapped in plastic bags, and everything was really well protected. The surface finish of everything looks like it's very nice quality. Let me show you a couple features that I like about the airplane that's very similar to some of the other unique models airplanes. First and foremost, the elevator, they mask the center section here, so you're now gluing foam to foam instead of having to glue a painted surface, which is nice. I'll go ahead and I'll take some light sandpaper and scuff this anyway so the glue bonds to it better, but that's basically going to plug right into here. Rudder will go on there on top and so forth, so it should go together nicely. I'll also scuff this surface too with a little bit of sandpaper so the glue bonds a little bit better. Hinge is made out of foam like all the other surfaces on the airplane, and they put two elevator horn installation pads here, and you can notice that instead of just one. And you can notice here they have the rods already installed, and the clevis is already installed too, so this should go together pretty quickly. Other thing, they give you a 12/6 prop, pretty standard prop. Nice thing is you can replace this with almost any 12/6 prop, so replacing a prop is going to be pretty easy. Pretty standard bag of horns, wing screws, a couple linkages for the ailerons, screwdriver, and some glue. Two plastic canopies that you glue in place. The rudder is in real nice shape. Looks like they did a good job putting this thing together. Water transfer decals, so the detail is very nice. With the wings, the surface finish of them is really nice. Of course, foam hinges here. The wires are already run through for the aileron servos, and as you can see here, they put two plastic washers that are screwed in here, and that's where the wing screws are going to go. It's going to go in with a tongue and groove type design with two screws. Servos are already mounted in place, and the wires are already run down to the center, so this thing's really ready to go on. You can notice here, and here that there is a spar that runs the full length of this wing and the other wing, so it's nice to know that they did put a full length spar in there going all the way through. Also with the airplane, there's two pilots. Looks like they're twins, and they both have a little American flag painted on there, and the detail is pretty nice with these guys. Feature about the landing gear that I think is really nice, typical wire just plug-in landing gear like you'd find on really almost anything else. These are plastic kind of fairings around here, and which I think is a lot better than foam, and it looks like they're pretty rugged. Another feature about how they installed the wheel that I thought was kind of unique, is they actually screwed this on. This is actually threaded on there, and this little hubcap goes on and screws this into position, and it goes all the way down and it goes flush in there. The wheel is pretty solid. It's a foam wheel. It's pretty tough. It looks like it's 2¼ to 2½ inches, so should be a great airplane for flying off of grass. Also, all the struts, the wing struts and supports are already pre-put together. They're pre-assembled. They have they're also labeled with the part number or the letter, and they're already all screwed together and sort of ready to go into place. There's two of those for the outside, and there's four of these to connect the canopy on, or to connect the top wing on. The fuselage, the last part we'll take a look at. This thing a lot like the T6 Texan that I have. And it's real rugged. It has a real rugged feel. One feature to really look at that I think is really cool, I'll try to get this in the center here, is this radial engine just has some nice detail to it. Probably would apply itself very well to anybody that likes to do scale work, who likes to do weathering and so forth. And they give you this real nice aluminum lock-on nut, okay, that fits down in there and gives you a real positive prop lock. And like I said, any prop will fit on here, so replacing them is going to be easy. But real nice plastic radial engine with exhaust pipes coming out of the bottom, and real nice metallized arms that go up to the rockers for the valves, but for the valve covers. But anyway, really nice scale detail on that motor. Couple other features about it. is it's just, overall, it's just really rugged. They went ahead and instead of using some kind of an electric canopy, which is a nice thing that they did, is they have this whole hatch that goes in with a magnet. And you can see they have a really nice quality kind of magnet that fits on there, and they installed one in there. The battery compartment looks to me like, and we'll see when I do some test flying of this thing, the battery compartment, they already have a strap in there, but it looks like it'll hold quite a big battery. You know, possibly 3,000, 4,000, yeah, maybe even 5,000 milliamps. As I do the test flying, I'll report what kind of size packs I use. But as long as the CG is right, it looks like it'll hold a big battery if you want to put one in there. So real nice inside to this thing. Everything's all wired nicely for you know, your ailerons and your elevator and everything, putting your servos in. Also, Dean's connector for your ESC, for your speed controller. And this whole thing just plugs right in, guys. Magnets into position, and real good fit. One thing to note about these things, guys, these aerodynamic fairing, or these aerodynamic struts, is they all have like sort of a little, like I'll show you this real close. They have like this U-channel type design, and they all kind of just plug in and glue into position. So, and they look like a real nice fit. It looks like a pretty solid way to do that on a foam airplane. Anyway, guys, I'm real impressed with it. The quality of this thing seems pretty rugged, and it looks like they have a nice exhaust port under here too. The tail wheel, this looks like a wheel they pulled off the T-50, so it may not be the most scale wheel, but it'll get the job done, and you could always replace that with a more scale looking wheel if you wanted to. But instrument panels in there, and really good detail, guys, some good rivets and so forth. Anyway, that's the layout, guys, of all the parts. I'm pretty impressed with it, and I'll get on to the building of it. Here's a look at the instruction manual that comes with the airplane. It looks like it's pretty simple and actually pretty easy to read. Most of the building of the airplane is really on this one page. As you can see, it really starts off with just screwing the landing gear into position. Then we're going to screw the bottom wing on. Then we're going to glue the canopy and the pilots in position. We glue the elevator on, glue the rudder on, and then the next 5 steps just show you which struts go on where, and you glue all the struts on. The last page really just shows you a little bit of setup stuff, and shows you gluing the top wing and then putting the propeller on. So pretty easy build, guys. I'm not going to detail the entire build in here because it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to follow. But as I put mine together, if I find anything that I think might help you out, or anything that might enhance the building, or just enhance the plane, make it a little better, I'll certainly be pointing that out as this video goes on. When installing the landing gear, guys, I found that this whole system goes together really nicely, very much like actually putting wood airplanes together. One thing that snag that I ran into, that I always run into on wood airplanes as well, is this inside corner, okay, of the strut, a lot of times gets caught on the inside of, or it gets caught on that little corner right in there. And but when you put this thing in here, it won't go all the way down in there. So you have to get an X-Acto knife or a file or something. And you can see in there, I kind of rounded that corner a little bit. And what that'll do for you is, as you install this strut and you put it down in there, you'll see that it will actually now mount flush when you push this rod in there. And that's what you want, is for this whole thing to be flush. So when you put this piece in, which is the strap that holds it into position, it's not rocking forward and back. So if you feel that it's rocking forward and back, you just need to take away that little plastic corner in there until this thing fits flush down in there. When installing the wing screws, guys, this is one snag that I ran into, probably more my fault than anything else. But as you put these screws in, there's a blind nut on the other side that's in wood. And if you push this thing in too hard before you get it threaded, you can push the blind nut out of the back of the wood on the other side. And when I flip the airplane over, you can see in here that the blind nut is actually underneath the foam. So just so you know, what I did was, and it's a real simple fix, is you can just take your knife, a hobby knife, and you can just cut away a little of that foam, and it exposes the wood bulkhead. And that way you can thread your blind nut back in there and get it to seat down in there. So it's not a problem if that happens, but this is just a way to get at that blind nut if you run into this problem. When installing the tail, a couple things to note. I didn't see really anywhere in the instruction manual where it said to install the horns. It's not really a big deal, guys. We do this for almost every airplane that we have. But it didn't show up for both the elevators. There's also one on the rudder here, and there's two on the ailerons. I did note that I didn't quite have enough screws that were long enough actually to fit all the way through there, because this is pretty thick. I did have to acquire some on my own that were long enough to go all the way through. So you may have to do that. It's a small thing, but anyway, some guys like to use 2 of these screws diagonally, and they say that's really all that you need. But I like to use 4 just to be thorough and to make sure that I have a nice connection there. When prepping this tail for gluing, you notice that I went ahead like I normally do, and I scuffed all the surfaces that are going to contact. I scuffed all this a little bit, and really all that requires is just taking a little bit of sandpaper, and I actually use the kind that sticks, and I actually stick it to my finger, and I just very lightly scratch the surface. And all you really want to do is just roughen up the paint surface and kind of scrape away any of the shiny area, because this whole area was nice and shiny, and you want to have it kind of gritty so the glue has something to bond to. You can get away, this plane will probably be on a relatively light load. You can probably get away with using the included contact cement, because it is actually pretty good glue. I still prefer to use epoxy, and that's really what I'm going to use. A couple other things that I did to this, I punched a couple holes through. I do this in a lot of my other models if you've seen some of my videos. I put those holes in there because as I put the epoxy on, and I paint the epoxy on this, and I fill this, or I put some epoxy in here, as you put this this giant section right here, this rectangular section down into here after you apply the glue, it makes like a fluid seal, and you sometimes can't push this thing all the way down in because there's just a pocket of air down in here. So by putting the screws in there, that lets the air come out through the top. A lot of times glue will come pouring out of there too, and that way this thing can seat all the way down flush, and you'll get a nice joint that way. I also scuffed the surface here of the rudder, all the areas that are going to contact the elevator and the fuselage. As I began to install my rudder, I noticed that my particular foam hinge, as I moved it a little bit, was actually beginning to crack. You can see it right there. Now I went and I checked all the other surfaces, and they're fine. Their hinges are good. This one maybe just got molded a little incorrectly or thin or something, or just had a fracture point there. But fortunately, if you look carefully, you can see a little indentation there, little indentation there, and they also supplied you with 3 backup hinges. So I'm going to actually just take a knife, X-Acto knife, and I'm going to cut right along here and just separate the 2 halves, and then I'm just going to glue the front pass, the vertical stabilizer on, and then the rudder will go on after that. And what I'm going to do is glue this on now, and I'll walk you through the rudder installation. Before mounting the vertical stabilizer, you have to give these 2 pockets right here a vent hole, just like we did with the elevator below. What I found is just by taking a long metal rod of some kind, this is actually an extra long drill bit, but if you push this, kind of angle it forward and just go straight in the center, the fuselage is actually hollow in here, so you'll make a nice hole going right into the fuselage. Same thing with this one right here. You can put 1 or 2 holes, whatever you need to put, but it's just hollow right in there, and that'll allow everything to vent into the center of the fuselage, and it will let this rudder, or this vertical stabilizer, sit all the way down and seat nicely. With the vertical stabilizer glued in position, you're now going to go ahead and work on the rudder. Really all there is to doing this, guys, is just taking a very small drill bit or mandrel or something, and you're going to put 2 holes where those marks are, and you're going to do the same thing in the rudder. The marks were here and here, and you're just going to insert these hinges in place. Notice also that I cleared a spot right here on both sides, and went ahead and just lightly sanded those down so it's nice and rough. And of course you want to put your horn on now. It'd probably be a good time to do that. And then you just go ahead and you test fit this thing into position. You notice that right here, this little black thing for the steerable nose gear, or for the steerable tail wheel, will just slide right in there. And then you go ahead and you test fit your hinges, and you want to make sure that your tail wheel is actually pushed all the way up where it's going to go. And once you got everything lined up in position, you want to make sure everything's working okay. And now you're ready to glue the whole thing in position. Here's the completed rudder hinge. I let this dry overnight, and it's nice and fluid. This definitely seems to be a real good way to install this. Check yours and make sure if you have a good foam hinge here and it seems real solid, you can just go with it. But if you had one like mine, which just had, which was a little weak and it seemed to be tearing already, maybe it was a little thin from the factory that way, they supply you with these two hinges to go ahead and put in there. And as you can see, it's a real nice installation. Now that the tail surfaces are in place, it's time to install the wing. And just as the instructions say, you go ahead and you plug in all your struts into the lower wing and the fuselage, then you put the top wing on, and you just do a dry run test fit, which is what I have here. Nothing is glued into position yet. And the way these things work, it's actually a pretty precise fit with even the uppers and the lowers, and they only fit in one place, which is kind of nice. So it's easy to tell if something doesn't fit into place. But really all that happens here is that these little brackets just plug right in, and you glue them in position, and that's pretty much it. And as you can see here, just with one hand even, I'm able to put these things in position, and they fit really nicely. The upper surfaces are the same way. They're a very precise fit, and they only fit one way, which is how you can kind of tell if something is in the wrong place. What I noticed with mine was that when I first put the outer struts on, the right wing and the left wing outer strut, they were actually angling inward. Okay, and what happened was they just got the sticker in the wrong place. So this A sticker was put on the wrong strut, and this B sticker was put on the wrong strut. So not a big deal. It was pretty much a no-brainer and pretty easy to figure that out. But anyway, as you can see, they're angled this way, and once you plug them in, they'll all fit perfectly into place. The second thing that I found that needed a little bit of a change, not a big deal, real easy thing, was these lower supports. These plug in pretty much the same way as the ones into the wing. They just go in sideways. And what I found is all of the upper ones fit perfectly like a glove. And you can see right there, they fit real nicely, and I'll show you this side as well too. They're just a super nice precision fit. Same thing with the lower ones, except for this front one and this front one, okay? But the upper part was fitting in perfectly. So what I found is I think they had just really switched these two around. So I unscrewed this one here because the front part was sticking way out and it just wasn't fitting in place like the other ones were. I unscrewed this screw right here, and I unscrewed this screw right here, and only changed the little bottom parts. The little bottom piece is a separate unit. So this little bottom piece went onto this side, and this one went onto that side. I reinstalled the screws, and lo and behold, a perfect fit. So the front ones and the back ones now fit real precision, and every single one of these fit into place. So you may have to just take a look at your airplane and just do a good test fit of it, and just make sure all those plastic pieces were labeled correctly. And if not, just switch them around, jockey them around until you get them in the right place. And once you have a perfect fit, just like it is here, you can go ahead and start gluing everything into position. Now that all the struts are pre-fitted and everything is ready to be glued in place, here's how I am going to prepare my struts to be glued in position. With the strut removed from the wing, what I did was I took some 80 grit sandpaper, and what you can see in this shot is you can see how I roughed this thing up with real coarse sandpaper. It only took a few seconds to do it. But each one of these, what I'm going to do is epoxy this whole thing into place, and I want to have it nice and rough so there's something for the epoxy to stick to. Now that we got all of these brackets sanded, one thing I'm going to do to mine that the instructions don't show you as well, that I think is going to make this thing fit in real well, is I'm going to take a knife, and I'm going to cut some barbs into this thing. And essentially all you're going to do is take your X-Acto knife and very carefully score a couple of straight lines in here. Okay, you don't want it to be very deep, but you just want to sort of cut into the plastic. And notice the angle that I'm doing this at. What's going to happen is it's going to leave a sharp edge, like a kind of like a hook, like a barb. And what's going to happen is when you push this in there with the glue in there, the glue is going to get in all of these little tracks. And what's going to happen is it's going to help keep it in, kind of almost like a hook. And I'm going to do that on this side, and I'm also going to flip it around, and I'm actually going to put some barbs as best as I can. It's hard to get the knife in here, but I'm going to do them on the inside edge too. With all the struts sanded and scored with a knife, everything's laid out nicely, ready to glue. The next thing that I did was I went ahead and took the pads where the struts are going to get glued to, and very lightly, very carefully just sanded those down and scuffed them. That'll just help the epoxy bond much better to them. Here's another look at the brackets on top of the wing struts. You can see the one in the front and the one in the back here. Notice I have the barbs on both the inside and the outside surface of each one that insert down into the wing. I noticed that as I glued these in, I glued the bottom ones in already, that if I take the bracket and insert it in and out of the foam several times, you end up scuffing, almost like sandpaper, scuffing the inside of the foam surface, and that makes the epoxy bond really well. I got a really good bond on this whole thing. Even the inner brackets I did the same way, or the inner struts, and you can see they're all scuffed and they're all in position and they're all ready to go. I really think that this is the way to go with gluing these in position. The epoxy gave me plenty of time to glue all of these in position, and I used 30-minute epoxy to glue this in place. And again, guys, I think this is the way to go. I got a real superior bond using this method. The next thing really to do is just glue the top wing on all in one shot. When gluing the wings on, guys, this is what I used. This is the way I did mine. I found that I took the 4 foam bulkheads that came inside the packing material that came in the box, and I laid them on the ground. I put the top wing on it upside down, and I took some epoxy, and I went ahead and with 30-minute epoxy, I applied epoxy to the 4 pads on this wing, and then the 4 pads on the other wing. And then while you're putting the epoxy on the struts, on the blue part, the glue can kind of soak down into those grooves that are in the wing. And then once you have all the glue applied, you know, I flipped the airplane upside down, and just the way you see it now, I went ahead and plugged everything in, and it seemed to keep the glue from dripping and all that, and everything plugged into place nicely upside down. And then very quickly clean all the glue off is what I did, and then flip the airplane right side up, because you want the thing to dry. I want to stress it, you want the thing to dry with the wing, with the airplane right side up. But this is just a good way to get it glued and get everything put together without the glue getting all over the place. And but again, I want to stress, you want to let the thing dry with the airplane right side up. And as it's up right side up, check all the joints, make sure everything's plugged in nicely, make sure you got all the glue removed, and just let it dry right side up. Here's the finished top wing glued on. The whole thing gets really, really rigid now that everything is glued in position. So one thing I noticed for sure, though, is that when sanding those blue pads, okay, that glue into the wings and everything, and then putting the barbs on them, when you get the glue on and you insert all these things in, the advantage of that is it really helps keep the airplane together. The plane does not want to come apart when you insert all the struts into the wing with those barbs on it. So anyway, it turned out to be a real good method for gluing this thing together. Here's a tip for you guys that I've used time and time again. This is the really nice aluminum prop drive that they give you, but it's a little bit slippery up front. It doesn't really have any it doesn't have a knurled end or anything to bite into the prop, and I found that my propeller seemed to be sliding a little bit. So what I did is I made a sandpaper washer, a double-sided one, and I keep usually a piece of this that I have pre-made around, and I just basically CA'd 2 pieces of sandpaper together. And you can see I've cut other washers out. But you make a double-sided sandpaper washer, guys. You use a hole puncher or something to cut the inside, and then you just basically cut the whole thing out with scissors. And you can go ahead and put this thing on here. Put your sandpaper washer on. Get your prop on, and you can tighten this thing up. And now you have a nice gritty surface. You can tighten this thing up, and now you don't have to worry about your propeller sliding. Taking a look inside the battery compartment, they did a real nice job with the strap and the battery tray and so forth. Here's how I set mine up. I went ahead and I took this shelf liner stuff like I do with most of my planes, and with some double-sided Scotch tape, I just secured it down here. I also took the strap, the battery strap, and I wrapped it underneath this whole thing of light ply. The straps were coming through 2 little slots, one that was here and one that was here, and they were actually coming up from underneath the battery. So it really wasn't going to hold the battery down real secure. When I strapped it in this way with those straps coming up from underneath the battery was sort of just flopping around in there and really wasn't secure. So all I did really was remove the strap from those two slots and just run it underneath the entire piece of plywood. And that definitely secures the battery much better than the way it was originally set up. Here's a shot of the battery compartment with the battery installed, and you can see right here the straps come along the side of the battery and they hold it down nice and tight. Again, they were coming up here from the center of the battery, and it was really hard to really strap the battery down because the straps actually were coming up from underneath the battery. So the battery was flopping around in there and so forth. So anyway, if you just shift the strap around and put it in this position, it'll hold it down much more securely. Here's a look inside the cowl, guys. You can see I just removed it from the airplane. There's two screws on the side, one hole there and one on this side, and you can see the lead weight that I put inside to balance the plane out. And I put 2.5 ounces, and the plane seems to fly real well with that weight in there. Here's a couple of improvements, guys, I decided to make to the cockpit area. I just thought the stock cockpit looked a little bit bland, so I added some color and some contrast to it. But you can all see the pilots are sitting down kind of low. I actually added a 1/2-inch block of balsa wood underneath this guy up front. And it looks like you can now see over the dashboard and should be able to fly the plane okay. The other change I made also too was you can see the color here. This is just the standard kind of cockpit that comes with it. I just took some black sticker trim and just filled out the underside and the back, and it just adds some contrast. I also put some cockpit combing, which is really just some wire insulation that I got actually from a little bit of TV cable. So I took the TV cable, cut a length of it, strip the insulation off, and then of course cut it lengthwise, and then it easily fits over top of this. I just used the contact cement that came with the model. It was actually perfect for that. But anyway, you can overall see I think it just improves the looks of the airplane. It looks a lot more scale. Alright guys, that concludes this video on the Unique Models Boeing PT-17. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful for getting your airplane together. A couple comments I wanted to make. You notice I added some nose weight to the airplane as I was building the airplane, 2.5 ounces I believe it was. As I finished the airplane, I put the battery in it and so forth. I held my finger right around here to balance the airplane, and it just seemed like it needed a little bit more nose weight. So I put that 2.5 ounces in there, and I haven't taken it out since, guys. So it does balance well with that additional weight in there, and I pushed it as far forward into the engine compartment as I could, and you can see it wrapped around in there, and the plane flies, as you can see from the video, flies fantastic right there. As far as CG goes, it does balance right on the main spar. Now there's a spar that runs through here, and there's little notches under there to show you where the spar is. So there is a little notch right here, and the plane balances right about right there. Now I don't have a battery in it right now, but when you pick the airplane up on that spot with the battery in it, it'll balance right on that spot. So as long as you have it balancing right on that little notch right here in the middle, it's this easy of an airplane to balance. So and to check the CG with. Anyway, in addition, in conjunction with that extra weight in the nose, the battery compartment is big. You can put almost any size battery in there. I flew it with 2200s, I flew it with 2650 milliamps, I flew it with 3000, 3600, and even 4000 packs in there. So it'll take a wide variety of batteries depending on what you want to do with the airplane. If you're looking to fly this airplane, just cruise around and do some takeoffs and landings and kind of gentle maneuvers with it, go ahead and put a big battery pack in there. I was using 4000 milliamps in there, and it'll do all the airbags and everything with it as well. But I found with a lighter battery, it puts obviously a little less load on the airplane, a little less aerodynamic load. So if you're going to pull hard on the airplane, do real tight turns with it and stuff, I would probably put a little bit lighter battery in there when you're doing that stuff. Anyway, guys, that's it for the video. Again, I hope you all enjoyed it. Please leave your comments on the video. We have more to come. We also started a Facebook page that I'm going to try and take more photos, more current stuff, and put them on there. So please check out the RC Informer Facebook page as well. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.